Alright, so you made it to part 5, the final part of this series where I am showing you the compositing of my renders. You will see there's a big difference from final to renders. You can see there's a big jump of those. I'll going through all the steps that I did to achieve this result. You will learn a couple of cool new ways how to place 2D cards in a 3D space quite intuitively. I'll be showing you like adding glints, glows, adding the depth perception, which you can see is not in the render, it's all in the compositing. And yeah, we will be going over some denoising and yeah, a lot of fun stuff, honestly. Alright, so now let's have a look what I did. As I said, this is my raw render. I rendered the AOVs separately. You can see here's my list of AOVs. I'm just merging them in, so my channels are all in one. I do have my default AOVs, my moonlight, my shack lighting, and my instance shack. That is all there. Up the top here, we're just doing a couple of grades. I'm just using the depth to actually bring in, shuffling the depth out into RGBA, and then I'm grading them to kind of create an initial depth lift or black lift. You can see I'm lifting the distant building slightly, nothing crazy. Then I'm grading. You see, I should have done this in render, but I didn't run a render again. Also, I'm using the Nuke survival toolkit, which you can download for free. Have a look at that. It's pretty handy. It has all the nice VFX compositing tools that you need, which also has this great layer node. I'm picking up my PLO, my moonlight, and I'm just kind of killing it. You can see now it's almost gone. There's a slight lighting left just to give an initial direction, but most of it is just disabled. And then we are heading into the denoise section already. For this, obviously you can use Arnold's denoiser, or if you use a different render, their denoiser. In the end, what I did, I used a neat video denoising. You can see if I maybe step up, this is before denoising and after. So it does a very good job of denoising. And if I play this, you can see it's actually pretty clean on play, and I'm stopping up by 2 stops now, which is quite a lot more. If I show this is my rendered noise. It's pretty terrible, to be quite frankly. So I definitely had to denoise it to actually get good pixels. And if you look at the denoiser, it's pretty buttery clean. The only problem is we have these very bad things in the distance, like these strong AI things or whatever it is. Like they were causing me some issues in the depth of field passes. Yeah, otherwise it's pretty nice. So what I did, I denoised it, wrote this to disk and loaded it back in. Then I did some more grading on the shack lights, just added a diffusion, plus that on top, just to get a little bit of, glow. Again, this is my instance lights. They were not denoised. Add some diffusion, which is essentially kind of a glow, but it's also blurring it a lot. So that's kind of two things. And you can see it kind of adds this misty haze to it, which is very nice, very subtle, very nice. And then we're going to the light wrapping, which already pulls in my 2D card people. This is a different setup, which Sebastian should help me a lot with. He's a professional compositor. He's a good friend of mine as well. So I asked him, hey, how would you do this? Would you do them in render, or what is show me a nice comp trick. So he actually did that, which is a pretty neat trick. All right, so at the top here, I just went to iStock Photo. They have like test versions of their videos, and it's like 640 by 360, and it has a watermark in it. I didn't care. I just downloaded whatever weird plates or movements they have. If I go to input, you can see they move a little bit, right? More frames than I need, which is great. Then I'm using IBK color to copy out the alpha. I wrote them and pre-melt it. So in the end, this is what it's ugly. Don't get me wrong, it's ugly. But for, what the final result is, it doesn't matter. It's blurry, it's small, you don't see anything technically. All right, so the bigger question is, how did I actually place them in 3D without me having to, place them manually, move them, scale them, all that BS? So Sebastian helped me with a very neat way. And all we're doing in the end, I'm going to my AOVs, like this is pulling in my AOVs, and I'm just shuffling the position pass into my beauty, right? So that's, you can see XYZ goes into my RGB channels. And then these guys, these no-ops, read from that shuffle in the end. I just rewired it a little bit. And the no-op is a null, a node which does nothing. The only thing I'd added, I went to right-click, manage user knobs, and created a vector. Not sure what it's called here. 3D position knob probably. I just named it position picker, and you can see there's some kind of value in it. This value is directly linked to an axis, and the axis it's pulling in. You see, this is my 2D card. I've graded it a little bit. Let's actually look from this one. This is my 2D card. You can see the people are here with the alpha. Transform geo if I need to move them after the fact, which I most of the time didn't. But I just had the option to place them and then still move them if I needed to. And all of these are my people that I placed somewhere. And now if I disable the PMATs quickly, so all of these cards go into a big C node, and the C node goes into a scanline render, which has my shot camera in here as well, which I brought in using USD. You can see USDA is coming in here. So that is being pulled in. Pretty sweet. And then let's view from the merge node, because this is where kind of I can place them quite nicely. This is my raw render. You can see I've got all the people in here. Now what's going on, if I go to these no-ops, you can see I have the number here, the values X, Y, and Z. And if I move them, you can see that my people are moving in space. Very cool. I can click on the color swatch here on the right. You can see now there's a picker. And if I control click, they kind of disappear, which means they are picking the current pixel value for the placement. But if I hold Control and Alt click, it actually picks up the input where this is coming from, this data. That allows me to now place them wherever I want. So if I want to place them here, Control Alt and click, they fit perfectly there. And if I put them all the way here in the distance, maybe here, you can see they are scaled properly based on their position value. If I put them on this roof, they're this size. If I put them, on this here, they are always the correct height, which is super handy. If I want to place them on the balcony here we go. They're always the proper height, and I love it. I did that, and I had so much fun in placing them. And again, thanks Sebastian for this epic trick, which saved me a lot of headaches. So yeah, you will see that there are always groups of people. I added these PMATs as well. And what they do, they are cutting out the alpha from these people. You can see after the fact, they are being cut out. And sometimes if I place them in front of a building, I didn't want to have them going over. So that's what this is just doing. It's just a PMAT. You can control click it, and then it just creates a mask, which you then can use for pre-multiplying. All right, that was that spiel, which I had so much fun. So all my 2D humans are coming in here. The red thing is just preview stuff, which you can disable in the PMATs if you just preview over image. Let's get just rid of this. All right, so now the humans are coming in, and then I'm just using my foreground stuff and then a light wrap, which then just, wraps light around them so they feel a lot more integrated. Without it, they're pretty black. The light wrap, they kind of fit in, like they get the same kind of glows and everything. Super nice. All right, next up, we are doing a lot more grading. What I usually do, I preview it with the background in place with my background image, but we will see that in the end. So we are here, and similar thing, I'm pulling in the Z-pass. You can see depth goes to RGBA, and then I'm grading the alpha. You can quite easily, similar way, you can click in here and you can hit Control Alt, and you then can pick the input output, can kind of really just very quickly pick the really correct values that you need. I just rounded them then in the end to just get a nice value. Graded it one more time because I didn't want to change my original one. You will see now I'm just grading it with some blue color, right? It's called depth phasing, essentially. And then I'm doing something very similar, grabbing in my position, my PMAT this time. So with PMAT, I can just, again, pick somewhere where I want, creates me a mask location based on the radius. You can see I can change how big it is, and it will stick to that location, especially if things are moving, it will just stick to the geo. Then I apply the noise, you can see this. If I make it very small, very fine noise, and I wanted to mimic some kind of clouds that are in the foreground, like in between the buildings. Then I use this as my alpha. I pull in this as my other alpha. Then if I have this and this, I just multiplied those two to get just the little masking in between. And then I'm used that, if you can see now, to create a little bit brighter spots, and it's kind of broken up. So it should mimic some kind of pollution, light pollution. You can now see I've added these little fire things. And as I said in part 4, I did render them separately. So these are all my little fire elements, fire pits. I did a glow on them just to give them some, there's some volume in the air. Use the glint as well. The glint kind of creates these kind of streaks which you get from dirty lenses or old lenses, which kind of streaks things like this. Then applied that, plussed it over, and then my fireplaces now have these little fires and streaks on them. Soft clip to just don't go too bright on my highlights. Then I use not ZD Focus, but PG Bokeh, which is now part of Nuke, to create some nice depth of field. Well, it's subtle, but it is there. You can see we get the depth of field, the focusing. After that, I use the exponential glow to create more haze, more atmosphere. I diffuse that, which kind of glows and blurs it even further. And then I'm plussing this back on top. You can see it's very subtle. I had different iterations, but in the end decided this is the right amount. The next plus is bringing in more streaks from the left hand side. You can see now my big lights got these streaks and glints as well. How I did that, very similar as before. I'm pulling in my lights that I want to create these glints on, foreground and background lights. I graded them. I was looking at the glint and then I graded them. You can see now if I don't grade it, we get so many, and I just reduced them until I just had a couple that were glinting. And I did the same on the other side. You can see we got a couple more grading, and then I just merged them in like that until I was happy, plus them over, got all the nice streaks on top of everything. Reformatting and lens distortion to create some lens effects. Chromatic aberration only on the edges of the lens, so it's not in the center, it's just breaking up the chromatic here, which is okay, that's what it's supposed to do. And then I'm putting it over the plate. The plate is just an image which I generated from Midjourney. Prompt was dark, moody, clear sky, almost pitch black, dark gray. That's my prompt. And then I did some grading, added some noise on it, multiplied that. You can see to just, again, break up the fog, color corrected it, put it on an elongated sphere, and scan and render it through my shot camera. That is this. And then it's just A over B. Last couple of steps, another diffusion, which just adds even more atmosphere to everything. I think this was the right amount, which I was satisfied with. And reformatting one last time, adding vignetting, adding some grain, which is noise, film noise, you would call it, as if it would be shot on film, but it's digital applied. And then I rendered this out. And then we finally end up with my version 8, which I can kind of play back. Can I? Maybe let's go input, globals. Yeah, and there you go. You can see it's glinting a bit. That's because my denoiser was acting up. So we still get these stronger glints, which I don't know. I didn't want to solve it, but I would have need to render again to get cleaner results in the first place. But yeah, it kind of works because they do flicker in the distance because of the heat fading, cooling off, the air is just moving, refraction, all of that happens. So it's not too bad. But yeah, this was the comp. So it's nothing crazy. I like this with the 2D cards approach. It's super handy. The grading, I would say, is very simple. There's nothing much going on, but it turned out to be a very good end result, and I'm very satisfied. And thanks again, first of all, CG Lounge for giving me feedback and improvements. I did post a couple of web renders to ask for feedback, and then also again, Sebastian should to help me get these 2D people in place. And also what is new now on my channel, I do have an editor, Jay, who allows me to create more content because he will edit that, so I have a little bit more time to create the content. So thank you, Jay, for stepping up and helping me out with all my tutorials, and hopefully my subscribers of YouTube and wherever else appreciate that as well. And as always, I hope you like this whole series just because it was something completely new. I never do like these big series projects. Let me know what you thought about this, if you want to see me doing more Houdini stuff, or if you would like to also see Maya stuff, because that is, how I started out. Do let me know. I would always like your feedback, and I try to reply to as many comments below as I can. So thanks again, and have a great day.